morning, everyone. My name is John Naughton. I am Vice President for Enrollment and Student Success, and on behalf of the entire Ohio Dominican community, welcome to campus. Ohio Dominican has, for 113 years, can you hear me now? Oh, there we go. It's hard to tell up here. For 113 years, Ohio Dominican has been Central Ohio's Catholic university. The building that we are in today is called Peace Hall, and that is an ode to the Dominican Sisters of Peace, who are our founding congregation. And in this building, you will find our Master of Science in Anesthesia Studies program, and also a Care Forward clinic on the second floor, which is a partnership between COPC and Ohio Dominican to serve our campus community, but also to serve our surrounding community. Today, we have over 30 countries represented on campus, working through our 42 majors and 9 master's degrees. And if you have in your businesses and your places of work, if you have any interest, we'd love to talk to you about how we might partner with you for tuition discounts and so forth to help you and your colleagues if anybody has interest in pursuing a master's degree. But I've been given a very quick 3 minutes today, so I could talk all day about the university. I do just want to point out quickly, we are thrilled to have you today. We'd love to have you back on campus, whether it's for another chamber event. We have another one coming up in a few months. Or if you have event needs of your own, in your own businesses, we have where we are today, obviously. And then on our main campus, we have a number of meeting rooms and larger event facilities that we would love to talk to you about, show you if you have any interest, if you have any need, and just come back to campus. And now that the rain has stopped this morning, we do have a walking bridge just on the other side of the parking lot here too. If you have any interest at some point today in walking over to campus, we'd love to welcome you over there as well. And with that, I'd like to welcome Monica Wilson, who is Vice President of USI. Monica.
So it's not often that they give an insurance person a microphone in the audience, so 3 minutes, Tim, you said? I'm joking. Well, good morning and welcome to the Columbus Region Logistics Council's Women in Logistics. That's a mouthful, right? I practice that quite often. I'm Monica Wilson, Employee Benefits Consultant with USI Insurance Services, the presenting partner of the CRLC event series. Every year, the CRLC hosts a Women in Supply Chain and Logistics program in an effort to further connect and uplift the women who work in the supply chain, logistics, and manufacturing sectors of our Columbus community. We've seen some great connections, conversations transpire from previous Women in Logistics events, and we are excited to carry that momentum forward today. Thank you to the Columbus Chamber for having us here today. We value our relationship with the Chamber and look forward to our continued partnership. In this fast-paced logistics world, efficient and reliable transportation and distribution are crucial for the success of any business. Quite similar to the employee benefits arena, fast-paced, quickly changing, need of efficiency, reliability are absolutely crucial to your business as well. With over 3,000 logistics clients nationally, 500 in Ohio and surrounding states, 2 of which are on the panel today, we know this space extremely well. It's what we do. USI is the largest privately held brokerage firm in the United States with over 500,000 clients served and 10,000 employees nationally, 200 offices across the country. Large, but with a local touch. Our office is located right here in Dublin with over 100 employees locally here. Why is this important? Our size and the volume of business that we have in this space with the carriers and TPAs gives us leverage to work best for you. Our AI, what we call our Omni solution, provides the horsepower behind our solutions capturing the experience of more than that half million clients, thousands of professionals, providing you with best-in-class solutions with quantifiable financial impact as well as employee impact, meaningful in an environment where employee retention and attraction has proven to be so difficult. At USI, we're extremely fortunate to have a senior staff to service you here locally. Our bench strength consists of account executives, consultants, account managers, ERISA attorneys, wellness consultants, underwriters, and they work here locally to serve you. Average tenure, as you can see, 15 years, 24 years, 30 years. That's what makes us unique and different in this market space, is definitely our staff and our bench strength that's here to work for you. This year is sure to provide opportunities for innovation, growth, and differentiation in the market. What an exciting time for your organization, and we look forward to partnering with you on this exciting journey. I'd like to welcome Sarah Hoagland, Senior Tax Manager with Schneider Downs.
Thank you, Monica. Hopefully very quick. Good morning, everyone. Today we are delighted to host an enlightening and empowering conversation that celebrates the remarkable journeys of women professionals in supply chain and logistics. I personally love being in a room with this many females. I find it so empowering. It's funny, on my way over, I put on my Spotify playlist, and for those of you who have Spotify, I've been rotating my day list pretty frequently. And I don't know how, I'm sure it's from my phone listening to me, but Spotify knew, and it put on a full female playlist that really just got me in the mood, and I'm so excited to be here. As Monica introduced me, my name is Sarah Hoagland. I'm a Senior Tax Manager with Schneider Downs, and we've been a proud sponsor of the CRLC for years. A little bit about our firm. Schneider Downs is a professional services firm. We offer the traditional tax and audit compliance for businesses and individuals, but we also have more than 80 service offerings so that we can provide a well-rounded experience for our clients. We love working with the transportation and logistics industry, and there are a few of us here today who specialize within the industry. So if any of you have any questions about what we do or how we could potentially help, please feel free to chat with us. I've attended this Women in Supply Chain and Logistics event multiple years now, and I'm very excited for the program today. I have been with Schneider Downs for my whole professional post-grad career, and crazy enough, I'm more than halfway through my 11th busy season. I like to reflect to when I started, and I had absolutely no clue what my future would hold. I'm very proud to have climbed the ladder and become a female leader within my firm, and I couldn't have done that without events like today's, because these conversations are so important, and I know personally they have helped me gain the confidence that I need to advocate for myself and inspire me to continue climbing. So without further ado, I would now like to welcome Christine Boucher, Columbus Region Logistics Council Director, to kick off today's program.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody in the back hear me? Perfect, great, thank you. What an exciting day, as both Monica and Sarah have shared. So I have looked forward to this day, well, since we started planning it. So very excited to move this forward. Thank you to Sarah and Monica for your words on the sponsorship. And thank you all for joining us today. I know it's Women in Supply Chain and Logistics, but thank you to the men in the room that are here to support the women in their climb and their career climb and their career pathway. So thank you to you guys for being here. Since 2019, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce and the Columbus Region Logistics Council have supported Women in Supply Chain and Logistics Scholarship Fund. The Scholarship Fund furthers the education of women studying in supply chain and logistic programs in an effort to grow the advancement opportunities for Central Ohio women in logistics. This year, after the unexpected passing in December of a friend to many of us, Angela Atwood, FTC coordinator with the Columbus Port Authority. And she was here last year, if those of you remember. She made her way around shaking hands and hugging people and sharing smiles. So I feel her presence with us today as well. We're pleased to share with each of you today the renaming of the scholarship fund to the Angela Atwood Equity and Logistics Memorial Scholarship. There are QR codes on your tables for you to use today to make a donation to the scholarship fund in Angela's memory, and take it home with you to share, or back to the office with you, to share with those who are not in the room with us today. The scholarship funds $2,000 per academic year, $1,000 per semester at Columbus State Community College, and we want to thank you in advance for your support. If you are making, or your company wants to make a sizable contribution to this fund, please let me know so I can contact Columbus State. But if you're making an individual donation, just follow the instructions on the paper at your table. I also want to say a thank you today for all of our sponsors. Without our sponsors, you probably wouldn't have coffee or donuts or other stuff back there. Just kidding. But thank you to them for doing that. They're the ones that help us to be able to move this forward. So it is my pleasure to now introduce to you and to kick off today's Women in Supply Chain Logistics Elevate Your Career, Shelby Gump, CRLC Advisory Board Member and First Vice President with CBRE, and our keynote panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so honored to be here. And just a quick story, in the spirit of what Sarah mentioned with Spotify, I listened to Beyonce to pump myself up on the way here today. She's great. So I want to introduce our panelists. If you guys could just come up when I call your name. So Nikki Driscoll, Jody Lewis, Jessica Renau, and Abby Zimmerman. Glad to have you all here. To kick off, could you guys each just introduce yourselves, your title, your company, and why you're excited to be here today? We'll start with you, Jody.
I'm Jody Lewis. I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer for ODW Logistics, which I've been there 2 years, and I've spent 40 years of my career working in almost all male-dominated industry. So I don't know what that says about me, but I've done motor oil, I've done chemicals, and now logistics.
Hi, I'm Nikki Driscoll. I work at STG Logistics. My anniversary is tomorrow. I'll be there 26 years. I've grown up with my company, so that's been an interesting outlook. And just like you, definitely a male-dominated industry. Excited to be here. I just love making connections and hearing your stories.
Good morning, I'm Abby Zimmerman. I'm the Director of Talent Management at ODW Logistics. I've been there about 3.5 years, and my career has been through what we call the Columbus circuit. So in healthcare, in banking, in retail, and now logistics. I am very excited to be here today to make sure that women's voices are heard, seen, and we do that with being experts. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Rano, and I'm a Senior Project Manager at KPI Solutions. We're a material handling integrator, so we take really cool products to make company robotics products especially, to make companies able to succeed and have higher levels of productivity. I've also been a bit in the Columbus circuit. The economy has allowed me to work at several different companies in the area throughout my career, starting off as an engineer and moving through different roles in project management and continuous improvement and program management for retailers, pharmaceutical distribution, and in other industries. And I'm passionate about helping women succeed in their careers. And I think the logistics industry has great opportunities to help people have very stable and great careers, and I'd like to be able to encourage more women and see them succeed in the world of logistics.
Awesome, thank you all. In the spirit of our topic today, Elevate Your Career, could each of you share a story or highlight a specific trait that you believe has been instrumental in elevating your career in the supply chain and logistics industry? Jody, we'll start with you.
Yeah, good question. I would say, and you've probably heard this before, having courage in raising your hand. And that's not easy. And so I'll give you my little story. I was probably in my 30s. I had 3 very young children at home. And I was an HR person most of my career. My boss asked me to take on a systems implementation. So I'm an HR person. They were going to implement SAP across the world. Not kidding, in 100 countries. And she said, I'd like you to be the project manager. I was like, I know nothing about technology. Like, whoa, that was really scary. It was a $20 million project, and I was terrified. I told my husband, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll have a job after this. This is really, really scary. But the learning that came from that and the courage that it took just to manage myself through that was career changing for me. So I would say to you, when you get those opportunities, don't go hide, raise your hand, be confident, use your network, and hopefully you have a good support system at home that will help you. That was really important to me. But those are career-changing opportunities.
I would say the trait that I would probably choose is grit. So I come from the operations place. So I like to say that transportation is gross. If it was easy, we wouldn't be hired to do it. You just have to be tough-skinned, and I think a lot of that ties into when you leave at the end of the day, if you did the best you could, that has to be good enough, because it's never going to be wrapped up in a pretty red bow, ever. It's always going to be organized chaos. And being able to not internalize that when you get home and just say, I have a tough job, but I'm tough.
My story begins when it was career changing as I expanded my role from talent acquisition that I did for many, many years and was an expert in, to talent management. And the trait that really helped me with that was taking a risk. And so taking a risk in that particular situation was, I could see that because of how my skill sets and my expertise in evaluating candidates with talent acquisition, understanding how they fit into the bigger scheme of the organization, and also being able to understand how they would fit in the rest of the life cycle for their employment, from acquisition all the way through performance management, through talent reviews, through learning and development. And so I was at a particular position where we had an analyst doing that talent management work in HR, and I thought, what a value that it could bring to the organization if we figured out how to begin to connect all of those pieces together for the opportunities it would allow for all of the associates. And so the risk I took was I went into my boss's office and basically pitched and recommended how I could roll this under my leadership and explain to her how that would be of value.
I would say being a problem solver has one of the traits I think has really helped me succeed. Most of the roles I've been put into is something I have never done before. In my current role, I'm learning about robotics. On Tuesday, I was in a facility driving around these huge autonomous, they're called AMRs, so autonomous mobile robots. They're like 4 foot by 8 foot. We were driving around, I'd never seen them before, but they're really cool. But I don't know how to implement these. I've never done that before. So I really just taking it step by step and figuring it out. And that's really what I've done through my whole career, is being curious and having that problem solving. When I was asked to be on an Agile team to support operations, I heard of Agile, but I'm like, I'm a traditional project manager. I don't know what this is. Our team went in and we just started solving problems. And it was by far the most amazing experience of my career, was being able to just go in, try to figure out what a problem was, and then come up with steps to try to test and fix it. So I think that being able to be curious and try to just solve problems has really helped me move throughout my career.
Those are all great lessons, and ones that I've personally had to learn as well, and qualities that I've learned that I need to try to possess. But kind of taking it specifically into supply chain and logistics, what key skills do you believe are essential for success in supply chain and logistics roles, particularly for women aiming to advance their careers? And Nikki, I'll kick that one to you first.
I think transparency and making sure that you are, making your point. Don't sugarcoat it, right? Just make sure that you have your voice heard.
Amazing. Jessica, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. One of the companies I worked for, they had the motto of tell the truth and tell it fast. And that's definitely one thing that I think, in logistics, in supply chain, it's really fast moving. There's buildings that are shipping millions of items a day. You can't, if you're always holding back and hesitating on things, it's just gonna blow past so fast. So we need to bring those things to the front right away. So I would agree that's one of them. And then the other one I would say, kind of echoing what I said before, is to be curious and trying new things. This industry has rapidly changed since I started over 20 years ago. It's not just conveyors and boxes moving through buildings. There's a lot of different aspects to it, and the software world is completely different. So you never know when you try something different where it's going to take you.
Great answers. Something that we've talked about, when we were planning this panel, was how important mentorship and sponsorship are to really anybody advancing their careers. But what are your perspectives on the distinction between mentorship and sponsorship? And how do these two forms of support contribute differently to the career advancement of women in the field? And Jody, with your HR perspective, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so that might seem like, oh, that's the same thing. A mentor and a sponsor is the same thing. So being the head of HR, I've watched this progression happen. And what men in particular are really good at doing is networking within their organizations. Like, they make sure that people know who they are, important people know who they are. And the 40 years I've spent doing HR work, I'm like, why do women not do that? And so we talk a lot about mentorship, and you all know what that is, right? Having somebody either in your organization or outside your organization who really is helping you sort of navigate your career, that you can go to for career advice. So what's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? A sponsor is the person that when those real key decisions are made, usually behind closed doors, lots of time in the boardroom, they're going to say, oh, I know who Jody is. I know her work. I've talked to her before. I can vouch for her. I'll put her forward for this job. That's different than a mentor. It can be the same thing. Your mentor can be your sponsor, but I've noticed that men are much better at having a lot of sponsors who can speak on their behalf, and that makes a difference when key jobs are being talked about.
Following up on that, what do you think, in finding a suitable mentor, how would you go about that, Abby?
Yeah. With my space, we actually deal with this a lot. And so there's programs out there for mentorships, which are terrific. I also know that folks are like, great, I know when I was younger, it was like, great, I'm going to go get my mentor, right? And it's like, then I sit there and I was starting to write, emails and thinking, I'm going to introduce myself. What am I going to say? Like, will you be my mentor? I know that another pretty interesting scenario could take place where you get matched up with a mentor, and then that individual is, doesn't really know you very much. Maybe there was an introduction between two people, and so it's like, great, this is what I want, and I tell my mentor that, this is what I want to work on, this is what I think I want your advice on, and they say, I don't think I'm the right person for you. And so I tell you those two stories because that is sometimes a lot when you're newer in your career or haven't had mentors before, or you think you don't have mentors before. That's kind of where you start, and that's what could end up happening. Maybe some of you guys have experienced it too. So here are my 2 tips on that. First of all, before you go out and say, I want a mentor and I know who my mentor is going to be, you really need to do a lot of planning, right? Lay a plan is always good for better execution. And so just like anything else, lay a plan. And one of those great tools for laying a plan is what I call the individual personal development plan. Maybe you guys have heard about it, maybe your companies have had it, maybe someone else used that, but you never used that before. Take advantage of it, because what it does is it tells yourself, it makes you reflect and say, this is the job I want, or this is where I want to go in the next year. It tells you about your strengths and making sure that you remind yourself what good strengths you have and to lean on those. And it also talks about development. And so development is not trying to fix yourself. Development is to progress you into where you want to go. It could be experiences you need, it could be additional capabilities, it could be a skill set that you need to upskill on. So I recommend doing that, and also part of that would be evaluating your network and understanding who those stakeholders might be and who might be a good mentor. Well, let me tell you a secret. You all have your own mentors. They're within your own networks right now, because the best mentors are people that you already have relationships with. And why that's so important is because you have a mutually beneficial. You give to them, they give to you. You've already have that camaraderie and that trust so that you're breaking down so that you can get feedback. You can take that feedback and do something with because you feel very comfortable with it. So those are my 2 recommendations.
Those are amazing. I think it's easy to find mentors. Like, I have mentors that are more formalized relationships, and I have some informal mentorship. So, and I liked your comment about kind of building that plan and helping yourself, move forward with that process. Okay, so the next question would be, in your opinion, what are effective strategies for networking and building professional relationships within our industry? Jessica, I'll throw that one to you.
So I think when people hear the term networking, you automatically think events like this, where you're going to go and meet people, which is great. I've been to several formal programs and have met people through that. But one of the best ways to network is organically through those things you're already doing. If you have kids that are in sports, the other parents that are there with them. If you are involved, like I'm involved in the Junior League of Columbus, the people that I met volunteering through there. Because when you find people that are doing things that you are also doing, you probably have something in common. So I think, not just thinking of networking and building your relationships as something that can only be done formally, it's really done all the time. And the great thing is now you can use social media to help support that. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. I've gotten every position I've had since 2009, I've gotten through LinkedIn. And when I meet people, I instantly connect to them. And so, when I've gone through my career, it's helped me keep track of people, because, it's hard to keep track of people that you've worked with. Life gets busy, you have different priorities, but you can go back when you're like, oh, I remember this person worked there. Find them, connect with them. This industry is small. It's amazing. Like, I'm currently working with someone I worked with 15 years ago, and we realized it a couple weeks into starting our jobs. And so keeping those connections is important. So utilizing tools like LinkedIn to maintain those is also important.
That's great. I totally agree too. I think that networking it's sometimes the term networking can seem very ominous, but it's just a thread that you have to start pulling, and then before you know it, thread is a web of a network. So, for women who have followed a less traditional path in their education or career journey, such as transitioning from a different industry, what advice would you have for leveraging unique experiences and skills to achieve success within this industry? And Nikki, you and I have talked a lot about that, so I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, thanks. So I would say that I didn't follow necessarily the traditional path. So when I started at my company, I was very young, very. And so my whole thought was, I'm going to start here because I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and then I'll figure it out and I'll go to college. That didn't happen because it was just my jam, right? So it was just like, I love this. And it happened to be a field that you can definitely leverage your skills. Now I'm a big fan of education. I have a daughter at DePaul right now. But you can leverage your strengths. Now that doesn't mean I can't be an engineer because I'm not certified. I couldn't be a nurse either, right? But I also struggled a little bit through the years. I realized this after many years that I felt less than. So, yeah, I must be good at operations, but I didn't get a degree, and I just don't. I don't think that qualifies. First of all, you as a human, right? So, I love this industry because it has a place for everyone, and by leveraging your strengths.
Jody or Jessica, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Traditional paths, or less traditional paths, I should say?
I would say, I love what Nikki said, and I would say make sure that whatever business you're in, that you learn the business, right? Because that becomes so important for your career. Learn how they make money, right? That's what they're there for, to make money, right? So make sure that you're leaning into that you're not just staying in your small lane. Clearly, Nikki did that. You figured out what that business was all about, and you leaned into those areas, and you learned how the business operates, what the leverage points of that business is. Even working in HR, I get that feedback sometimes. Like, folks are like, "Oh, you're not just an HR person. Like, you actually, like, you can talk logistics." And I'm like, yeah, I have to be able to do that. That's the business we're in. That's the people that I'm going to be coaching. So I make sure that I spend the time to do that.
And I think, one of the things about, I have an engineering degree, so which got me in the door. But it didn't, I work with project managers that have a wide variety of backgrounds. I worked in operations where people have a wide variety of backgrounds. So I think that's one of the things is that you can utilize that. If you're like me and have that traditional background, you can utilize that to get you in the door. But then I think as we've all worked through our careers, you probably don't end up where you thought you would end up in. I thought I was going to go work in manufacturing in an automotive plant, and I did that as an intern. Haven't done that since then. And so I think that, utilizing that you can always go back on that background, but, there's so many open doors and so many different ways you can take it. And a lot of times the most important training you can have is what you need for your role at the time. Like when I did Agile projects, I went through Agile certification at that time. And that was what was really important to learn then. And things change over the years, so you're going to always need to go get that re-education on different topics.
Jessica, you have any perspective on that since everybody chimed in? Or sorry, Abby. I was looking at Jessica.
There's what I always say is there's jobs out there for everybody. And so it's amazing, and when you really get that perspective when you've been in a recruiting world, and you've been in many different industries, and you get to start to know yourself too. It's like, well, I can't do this, or I don't want to. So this is what I want to do. And that's really helpful when you're looking at your career, is take those experiences and begin to decide what take evaluation, right? Take inventory. What do you really like to do in that? What is it that really gets you going? So that you can make sure that you always have that, right? Or vice versa.
Switching gears a little bit, as women navigating the challenges of working in a traditionally male-dominated field like supply chain and logistics, what strategies have you found most effective in overcoming barriers, fostering inclusion, and ultimately thriving in your careers? And I'd love to hear all of your perspectives on that. So whoever wants to kick it off first.
Shelby, that's a lot. That's a big question, right?
I think we're going to solve all these problems right now.
Yeah. That's a big question, and I could go on for hours about that topic. One of my regrets, I would say, is I never learned to play golf. Right? How many of you can play golf in this room? There's not many, right?
All the men. I see all the men stands raised.
Right? And, for a while that sort of irritated me. Because I would be like, oh, so where is everybody today? Oh, they're out playing golf. Okay, well, I'll just here run the company while you all are out playing golf. And so I got irritated about that. And so I made sure that I have a daughter that's 21, getting ready to graduate college. She knows how to play golf. I told my husband, go take her and teach her how to play golf. She's not great, but you don't have to be great. You just have to be able to drink beer and drive a golf cart. So, I was always like, what goes on out there? Like, what do they talk about, right? Well, they talk about business. Golf is a business sport. They don't go play tennis, they don't go play soccer, they go play golf. And so it's a social thing. And so I'm serious but not serious. There are other ways to network within your organization for sure. And, I had to figure out what those ways were. Sometimes it's happy hour. Abby says it's learning to enjoy bourbon. That's another one, right? I haven't mastered that one either. But there are other ways to do that and take those advantages, because creating connections with people in your organization are super important. I watch the women in ODW, the management women, navigate that with so many men, and they're good at it. They know how to have humor, they know how to find common ground, they know how to make a connection. Maybe it's the age of their kids, or a sport they like, or being a Buckeyes fan, whatever it is. Figure out how to navigate that. That's super important. The other thing, I've spent almost my entire career, I started in motor oil, so there were no women there. Honestly, I think it was me and the secretaries. But what I realized was, and this was through some mentoring, not to get hung up that I was the only woman in the room. Like, I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't make it a thing for me. Some of my very best friends that I've grown up in organizations with are men. So I never let it get in the way, and I still don't. I'm the only female on the executive team. And, I know that every Monday morning when we meet, we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about sports. And I've even learned to sort of follow sports over the weekend so that I can say, oh, I know Ohio State won, or whatever it is. And they all have their teams, so I sort of follow their teams. Like, oh, Gary's going to be bummed. You lost again in basketball, right? But, I don't let it get in the way, and I don't really even notice it anymore. And I've learned to just embrace that. And I think you have to do that, or it really plays with your head, and you find yourself thinking things that really aren't real, but you've made them up in your head. So that would be my advice.
I would say, from my personal experience, I would consider 6 to 8 women that I work with to be my very best friends in the world. We have found each other. We are each other's people. That's not every woman, right? But we've found each other, and they truly fill my cup. And a lot of us have been there a long time, but not necessarily. You know it when you see it, right? You feel it in your belly, like, I like this person. So we support each other, personally, and it's nice because they get it, right? I can go home and try to explain something to my husband. He's always going to be on my side. He has a hard time, right? And he doesn't have the perspective because he's not in the industry or what I do. We are actually, this group of friends at work, we're going on a cruise in about a month, in April. We are giggling about it. We drew names about who would have each roommate, and we are counting down the days because we work a very stressful life, and we cannot wait for everyone to handle everything while we're gone. It happens to be most of the department heads, right? And I mean, true benefit out of that. I find myself often thinking, like, how did I get so lucky? And I think the other thing is that you have to mentor, if someone wants to be your mentor people, especially women in the industry, build those teams so that it's not a male-dominated industry. Like, let's level that playing field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I distinctly remember one barrier that I experienced that I think a lot of you might have as well. And that was when I had kids in elementary school. And if you've had or are, in my experience, it was one of the most chaotic, stressful times while trying to juggle a house and juggle work. And so I remember one week, my husband was out of town. I got a call from the school saying that my son was ill, so I had to pick him up from school early. I think I had that night I was on the meal train, so I had to give the neighbor the dinner, right? I had to prepare for a presentation the next day. And oh, by the way, my father was going into back surgery. And oh, did I tell you that my husband wasn't there either that week? So anyway, so that was my week. And I remember I went into my male boss's office for a touch base. And he said, he knew kind of things were going on, right? Because I was like, I gotta leave to go pick up my son from school, etc. And so we made some small talk, and he said, Abby, he says, how do you do it? And I thought to myself, this was one of the moments I was like, oh no. Does it mean that I'm not doing my job? Like, is this like that conversation? Or what is the conversation? And it was actually the opposite. It was, I don't know how you do it all. I do my work here, and my wife does the homework, right? And I said, I reflected on it, and I said, why does your wife run the household? And he said, well, she's the expert at it. She can manage the whole calendar. She's got the vision for the week. She executes the plan. She takes and manages the networks and the people to pick off and drop off. She knows each of my kids and everybody about what motivates them to get out of bed in the morning, to do their homework, right? And I'm thinking, I got that. And I'm thinking, man, I can take that expertise and also apply those traits that I know a lot of women do, and I do, into my work environment as well, right? So that was a pretty big turning moment for me of how I thought about my expertise as a woman and what those differentiation characters and skills that I have, how I can bring them forward into the workplace.
I think you described why women make awesome project managers. That ability to multitask and just handle things from every different angle. So I think one of the things that I found is I've actually had my support network. It has been a constant, but it's been outside of my employment. So I've been involved with the Society of Women Engineers since I was a freshman in college. I was very involved in school. After I graduated, I got involved in my local section where I moved. It allowed me to meet people in the area. I moved a few times before moving to Columbus 18 years ago, but just stayed involved in SWE, and eventually moved up and served on the board of directors and president of the society. And when I was president, my theme was life's variable, SWE's my constant. And for me, what it is having that organization and my friends that are part of it has always given me that place to go to for that. While my career has been all over the place, I feel like sometimes. And that for me has given me, there's so many people there and such a wide variety of perspectives that I can go to people and ask them when I have questions about different things. And through that, I've also learned a lot about implicit bias and those things that you automatically think of. when you are confronted with the situation. And what my fellow panelists have talked about is a lot of times people have implicit bias about women, like that they have children, so they can't do this, they can't travel for work, or they can't, they're not going to have time for this. So when I've managed people or led teams, one of the big things I've learned, and I think this is important to helping everyone in your career, not just the women, but is to not make assumptions about people and let them make their own decisions. Asking people, hey, we have this opportunity to be on this project, but it's going to involve a lot of travel. Can you do that? Instead of saying, oh, they have a 5-year-old, there's no way she's going to be able to do that. And a lot of times those more intense projects are what are going to get you to succeed and be visible in the organizations. So making those assumptions about people and making the decisions for them can exclude them from those opportunities and not make it so they can move up into those roles. So I think that that's a one way people can make a big support for women and for really everyone in their career is to just not make assumptions and help them be part of the decision of what they can do.
Those were all amazing and incredible answers, and coming back to the beginning of the question, I do think we solved it. So everybody go back to their organizations, we figured it out. We're all forever changed, but no, seriously, those were great. And actually kind of fed into my next question was just how can women leverage their unique perspectives and strengths to contribute positively to our field? So Abby, you talked a little bit about your experience with juggling, being a mom and running things in your neighborhood and also doing your job and how you were able to apply that. So could you expand a little bit more on how you've applied that, and if anybody else has anything to contribute, what positive attributes in those lessons, not making assumptions, has difference it's made on your career?
Yeah. What I would say is one of the things that I know I think there's two things that I struggle with. First is I am a perfectionist, and so that really, I feel like I have to have everything in order. I have to have all the answers. There's no way that I can move forward unless if that's all buttoned up. And so as I shared a little bit before, I think it's that risk-taking is going to really serve well. So that's one area that we talked about before is being a little bit out of your comfort zone. And when you're out of your comfort zone is actually when you learn and when you grow. So you got to remember that. So if it doesn't feel good, it feels icky, like Jody said before, I'm scared to death, that's actually, just know that's what you're doing, right? One of the other things I would say is brag. Women tend to be pretty humble. Women tend to just say thank you. Women tend to not elaborate. And so this is obviously, you have to do this, with very competently, but there's a lot of places and times in your career, day to day, week to week, that bragging about yourself or talking about the good work that you're doing and how it's impacting is absolutely crucial and necessary in order to propel you forward. So think about even those dream talent or those dream performance reviews when you have to say all this great stuff about yourself, right? To get that. Again, get competent at that skill. Get competent at it. So if an executive says, oh, hey, Abby, I heard that you did this thing, great job. Say thank you, but elaborate so that they can hear why it was so successful and how you contributed to that and how you added or your team added value to that.
Amazing insight. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Traits that positive traits that can impact your career?
I got some really good advice from a female that was older than me. Going back to what Nikki said, sort of finding your people. So through my whole career, I've connected with women in my organization that were about 10 years older than I was. Why? Because they were close enough to me that it wasn't that long ago they were experiencing the same things that I was experiencing. And so one of the stories I have about this was there was a woman in my organization she was the VP of Environmental Engineering. And she had 4 daughters. And I had little kids at the time, and she had 4 daughters that were in high school. Can you even imagine? And so I said, oh my God, like, how do you do this? Like, I'm drowning. I'm like, you know, it's crazy at home, it's crazy at work. Like, I feel like I'm just not getting it done. And she said, Jody, she said, you have to make your own rules. You can't live by other people's rules. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, well, she said, at my house, now remember, she's an environmental engineer. She said, we only use paper plates and paper or plastic utensils. I was like, what? And she said, yeah, nobody wants to do the dishes. And can you imagine with 6 people in the house with these crazy schedules? She said, we just dump everything in the trash and send it out. And I was like mortified. I was like, oh my God, the environmental engineer is like wasteful, right? But that was really compelling for me. It like gave me this freedom not to feel like I had to Abby's point, be this perfectionist and fit in somebody else's box or somebody else's rules. So our rule at home became, which they all thought it was crazy at work, we ate out every single night. I had 3 little kids, we ate out every single night. So my husband worked from home. I would meet them at a restaurant, and the funny deal about that was we only ate where kids eat free. And people would call my husband and say, where's Kids Eat Free tonight? We knew every place in our town where Kids Eat Free, right? Monday night is Mexican, Tuesday spaghetti, right? And so we would meet there so that I didn't have to cook, he didn't have to cook. You know, we ate at places that were super duper quick, not fast food. We'd eat at Applebee's, Max and Irma's, all the places you know, right? We'd eat someplace that was really quick, but we were only paying for 2 dinners, right? And it gave our family time to be around the table together, and it was quick. And by the time we all got home, then it was, you know, they got their baths and all of that. So for years, now my kids are older and they can't eat free anymore. We pushed the limit when they turned like 11 and 12. We're like, they look young. They look young. They can still eat. But then it got expensive. But that was sort of our family rule and how I learned to survive that period of time. But I really appreciate that advice that I got from that environmental engineer that was 10 years older than I was.
That's a great story. We're right towards the end, so I'm just going to ask one more question to wrap it up. And I kind of think, Jody, you answered it, but what advice would you have for women who are looking to advance their careers in supply chain and logistics? So, Jody, you mentioned make your own rules. I want to hear from all of you on this, but any other feedback from any of you, including you, Jody, if you have anything else?
I would say identify your strengths and leverage those, and the stuff that you don't want to do or you're not as good at, you find someone that you can barter back and forth with, right, and do what you're good at.
That's great.
I would say that there's been a lot of great information here. I am very empowered and feel very energized with my fellow panelists. What I would say is continue to reflect and plan. So a lot of times, I know when things were chaotic and busy, I felt like I was going through a lot of the motions, right? Carve out that time to focus on you and where you want to go. Not the company, not your job, you, right? It could be your job, but focus on you. One day that could be something that's personal. One thing that could be something that makes your body healthy, right? That could also mean something about your job too. But please use self-care.
I would say take the risk. Put yourself out there for something that you're not sure that you're completely qualified for. We probably have all heard the statistic that men apply for a role when they meet 3 of the 10 requirements, where women say, oh, there's one thing I'm not really experienced in, I'm not going to apply for this. Take the risk, put yourself out there, and when you have that opportunity, do your best at it.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for being a part of our panel today and talking about ways that we can elevate our career. I definitely learned a lot. I'm going to take this home, digest it. But anyway, we do want to take 1 or 2 ideas or thoughts that you've heard here today and share them with each other at your tables for the next 20 or so minutes. So each table should have a facilitator or scribe. Please raise your hand if you are one of the folks that will be taking notes on those conversations. Okay. Love it. You guys will figure it out. Please leave your notes at the table when you're done. Thank you all.
Lots of good conversation. Love to see. I can't wait to read the notes of what you put on there and what your takeaway was from our panel today. I have a lot of notes on my paper that I took as a recap of the highlights of what was said. I'll just say a few of them. Take the risk, self-care, have courage in raising your hand, be confident in using your network, grit, problem solver, be curious, transparency. The best mentors are the ones you have relationships with. I like that one. Leverage your strengths, learn the business, get out of your comfort zone, brag, and make your own rules. Those were my notes for today, so hopefully if any of those resonate with you, take them back, find your mentor, and have that conversation on what is my next step. I also want to mention again about the scholarship on the table, the Angie Atwood Equity and Logistics Memorial Scholarship. Take those back with you. If you know of anybody that maybe knew Angie and is as shocked as we were by the news of her passing in December and want to do something in her honor, that would be a great way to pay a tribute to her. I do know if anybody in here was close with her, the family is planning a memorial service. We don't have that information, or celebration of life. We don't have that information yet, so we will communicate that when we get it. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask, are there any students here from Columbus State? Okay, there's Jeremy. Did you know him before?
I think he was one of my professors.
Okay. He said, I think I have students here, but I don't know who they are because it's all of a virtual. So there you go. There's one. Good. Okay. Yay! Okay, that was a risk I took. Okay. But I'm very pleased to introduce to you our president and CEO, Don DePero, to close out the event.
Thank you, Christine. How about a round of applause for our Christine Boucher at the Chamber? She does such a fabulous job as our director of the Columbus Region Logistics Council. She's grown the council and grown membership. You represent like 10% of our membership at the Chamber. We have nearly 2,400 members, and roughly 240 or 250 are members of the Columbus Region Logistics Council, which is absolutely great. Really would like to thank our moderator, our panelists, the great conversation this morning. And so please join me for another minute and thanking all of them. We love all of our members, and we really appreciate our guests who are with us today. And if you're not a member of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, we'd love to have a conversation with you about that. I know Holly Gallucci is here. I know Will Tiemann was here, and so was Nate McBride. Those are our member salespeople. Holly's in the back. Wait, Holly. So we would love to have a conversation with you about joining the Chamber, because we do more than 50 great events like this during the year, which offer plenty of networking and opportunities for you to expand your business, which is exactly what the goal is. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsors, without whom we couldn't put events on just like this, Schneider Downs and USI, for their continued support. And to all of our sponsors, and you'll see them on our screen right here. Join us for our upcoming events. If you go to columbus.org/events, you'll see all of the programs. We do tremendous programming in talent and workforce, and diversity and equity, in all types of programming, just like this for our friends in logistics and supply chains. And with that, hey, it's a Chamber of Commerce Day out there. Enjoy it, because it's supposed to get cold again this weekend. So Have a great day, have a great week, and thank you for supporting your Columbus Chamber of Commerce.